There's a different perfect for everyone. And sometimes insurance determines what's perfect for you, right? At the end of the day, it's going to come down to if you have the choice, if you have the ability, you want to be able to know what does exist out there. And a lot of times when people are first diagnosed with diabetes, you go to your doctor, says, hey, I am familiar with fill in the blank pump. And that is the choice that you have because you think, hey, I'm new to this game. You might be 2 weeks in, you might be 2 months in, you might be a year in. And that's your main point of contact when it comes to your diabetes. And so you just go with whatever they tell you, even if there are other things out there that might be a better fit. So my biggest goal as always is to make sure that you have the information, you are empowered to be able to go to your care team and say, hey, this is what I want. This is what might be best for me. Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. What is going on? Welcome to this episode of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast. And today, I want to go into all things insulin pump related and really just give a high level overview of what's out there. If I went into a full-blown masterclass of every single pump, I'd be here for probably 4 hours. And I doubt you want to listen to me for 4 hours. And I don't know if I want to talk for 4 hours. But the important thing is we keep having people come through our practice. People come to me on social media and they're saying, hey, I don't know if I should be on a pump. I don't know what system is best for me. Or we've had people as well on current systems saying, should I be switching? Should I be staying on this? What are the perks? What are the pros, the cons, etc.? And again, it's not a perfect science. There's a different perfect for everyone. And sometimes insurance determines what's perfect for you, right? At the end of the day, it's going to come down to if you have the choice, if you have the ability, you want to be able to know what does exist out there. And a lot of times when people are first diagnosed with diabetes, you go to your doctor, says, hey, I am familiar with fill in the blank pump. And that is the choice that you have because you think, hey, I'm new to this game. You might be 2 weeks in, you might be 2 months in, you might be a year in. And that's your main point of contact when it comes to your diabetes. And so you just go with whatever they tell you, even if there are other things out there that might be a better fit. So my biggest goal as always is to make sure that you have the information, you are empowered to be able to go to your care team and say, hey, this is what I want. This is what might be best for me. So before anything, right? And if you've been on a pump for years, you might probably can skip this little section here. But if you're not on a pump or you're contemplating a pump, or maybe your kid has been on, injections for a while and you're considering a pump, should you even go onto a pump in the first place? And the answer is it depends, right? There's a ton of people that have come through our practice. They're on multiple daily injections. They do amazing. They have great A1Cs. They're in the 5s. They're in the low 6s. They're able to eat the things they love. They're able to do the activities they want. And they're cool with just, hey, I'm dialing up. It's breakfast, it's lunch, it's dinner, it's snack, it's correction. They're good dialing up. And that's totally fine. And sometimes people prefer that because they know, hey, in that situation, I know I'm getting my basal. I know I'm getting my dose at lunch. Versus there's the possibility on a pump of there's a site that doesn't absorb well, or you hit scar tissue, or you end up in a spot where you hit a blood vessel and you don't get good absorption there, or the site falls out, or the tube gets tugged, or whatever, right? There's a million things that can happen. And so because of that, there are people that would just prefer to say, hey, I know I took my basal rate through my, insulin pen. I'm good. I know that I have this underlying insulin. I'm just going to go live my life and do my thing. And that's totally okay. Again, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It just is. And so it's finding what is going to be best for you. But if you're someone who's been doing that system and you're thinking, well, I'm kind of getting sick of having to constantly inject at every single meal. And more importantly, I'm getting sick of having to inject multiple times if I decide to eat more. That is where the convenience of a pump can come into play. Because again, if we assume all things equal, we assume that all sites are great. Every time you put in a site, it's amazing. It works. It's perfect. Then on the flip side, you're taking an injection once every 3 days, maybe 4 if you stretch the site, maybe 2 if you change it sooner. But that's still a heck of a lot fewer times than 1 for the basal, 1 for, let's just pretend, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack 1, snack 2, 1 correction. That's at least 6 a day. Plus, I don't think I counted the basal in there, but you get the idea. 6, 7, sometimes 10 plus injections per day versus 1 every 2, 3, or 4 days. You're happy about that. Plus, you have the convenience of some of the other features where on a pump, right? You can decide, hey, my basal rate's too high. I'm going to lower it at this time of day. Hey, my basal's too low right now. I need to raise it this time of day. Versus on injections, once you take it, that's it. So there's a lot less flexibility, but you have the peace of mind knowing, hey, I took the injection. I know this insulin went in my body. I know I'm good. So you have to weigh that. So if you're like, hey, I'm willing to give up a little bit of the, 100%, I know for certain, it's only 98% or, something like that. I'm willing to give up those couple percent for a lot of potential convenience. It could be worth considering and exploring a pump. And I would highly encourage you with your care team to see if they have loaners, if they have samples. I know Omnipod does a great job with samples because they're effectively disposable, single use. So you can get, one or two and try it out and see what you think. Sometimes clinics have an extra loaner pump on hand and you can try one out like a Medtronic or a Tandem, but ultimately it's up to you. And it's going to be a situation where you may want to just try it and see if you like it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And again, having talked with thousands at this point of different people, different clinics have it different ways where some of them say, hey, just go on a pump. Some of them say, hey, I want you to do a food diary first. Some of them say, hey, I want you to give us blood sugar reports or this, that, or the other. You have to be on a CGM or have had diabetes a certain length of time. Everything is a little bit different. But if you're like, hey, I've made the decision, I want to try something, I'll go through some of the main options that are out there. You've probably heard of at least a few of them. And there's a couple, newer kids on the block that I don't even want to say that they're less known. They're just not as popular yet. So because of that, it may be something where your doctor may have not heard of them. So of course, in my mind, I would jokingly say there's the big three, right? There's Tandem, there's Omnipod, and there's Medtronic. There are some other ones from the past, like Animas, RIP. It's been fun. It's been real. That, was back when I was growing up. Animas was big. There were some other ones like the Deltec Cosmo, shout out to them. But there's been a bunch of pumps that have come and gone over the years. And those three, Omnipod, Tandem, and Medtronic, are probably the three biggest that we see and that I've talked with people about in the marketplace right now. And so the big thing is Omnipod has its differentiating factor because, of course, it doesn't have tubing, right? Which is great in theory. You have this little thing that's on you. If you don't have this tubing, it's amazing. You just have the little pod and that's it. And it's, probably what it's gotten smaller over the year. I wouldn't even say it used to be, relatively large, like the size of a computer mouse almost. But I'd say now it's probably, I can't even think of a good parallel of how small it is. It's very small. Just know it's very small. And because of that, it's super convenient. Now, there's a couple drawbacks people think about and a couple drawbacks people don't think about, right? So the Omnipod has the Omnipod 5 algorithm, unless you get the Omnipod Dash and you choose to, use it manually all the time, which is, some people call the pumps with algorithms smart pumps, and without the algorithms, they're dumb pumps. You could argue that, the Omnipod Dash should be considered dumb because it doesn't have an algorithm. You'd have to be the one manually controlling it. Or you could end up running the loop system, the DIY loop system, which that's a conversation for a different day. I think I did an episode about that a while back because I have run it for a long time myself. But that system could be run on the Dash, and that system's very robust, but you obviously have to put it together yourself. Your team probably doesn't know much about it. But with the pod, the nice thing, like I said, there's no tubing. The Omnipod 5 algorithm, I will say, out of all the algorithms of the big three, is probably the most conservative. So high blood sugars will stay high for longer. It definitely will correct you very not aggressively. And the other thing I don't love about it, and this is just me personally, right? I've never run the algorithm for the 5 myself, but because of knowing these things is part of why I haven't run it. The basal rate is kind of like a black box. You set the basal rate, you turn on the algorithm, and it just kind of learns you, which is fine. It takes 2, 3, 4 weeks. But you don't know what's happening under the hood, right? It's just this reaction is happening. You do a chemical reaction, like, oh, why is this happening? You don't know what's going on. You just know what the outcome is. So if you were to go back in and say, oh, my basal rate's 1 unit, I need to raise it, it may or may not actually take that into account unless you reset the entire system. That part I don't love. I'm not going to lie. I don't love that part. Now, boluses, ratios, all that, of course, you can change that. But again, the algorithm's pretty conservative, and I've seen it with my own eyes, where people have started out, hey, I'm averaging 120, 125 on a different system. I switched to the Omnipod. I didn't want the tubing. And my blood sugar average is now 140, 145. And by all means, that's still like a 6.5 A1C, 6.7 A1C, which is under 7. If there's stability, that's fine. But on the flip side, it is running a little bit higher because the algorithm's so conservative. The other thing about the Omnipod people are not necessarily thinking about is you can't disconnect it, which obviously would be fine in theory. The beauty is you can go into the water. You can go into the pool. Hey, I want to go swimming in the ocean. You don't have to worry about not having your basal rate versus a pump that has tubing that you can't bring into the ocean. But on the flip side, you want to go in a sauna, you want to go in a hot tub, probably not going to be a wise life decision because it will fry the insulin and there's nothing you can do to take the pump off. So it's either I'm going to do this, sauna or hot tub before my site change or not have it on there, or I'm just not going to go in at all. So there's little quirks like that. Another quirk that I don't personally love, especially having run it for well over a year, is if the site is not good, if you're uncertain on the site, and this is again, me being real and raw. If you don't trust the site, so you put in a site and you're like, I don't really know, my number's running high. There's no way of saying, I'm going to rip just the infusion set out without ripping off the entire thing. So if you're not sure, you rip it off. Oh, well, my site was good. Well, that's cool because now you have to start over. Yes, you hopefully can salvage some of the insulin that's in there, but that's it. And I've had times where I'm getting much better at pulling the insulin out, but if you put in 200 units and you might only get out 150, if you have a bunch of bad sites, I remember I had, again, an episode probably 6-7 months ago where I talked about an Omnipod nightmare where I went through 10 pods trying to get 2 good ones or 11. It was something crazy. That's a lot of lost insulin. That's half a bottle. And we all know the situation with insulin. So that's something that has to be considered as well, is if you have a bad site, you're starting over with a brand new pod, which again, hopefully Omnipod will replace it. They can't replace the insulin. They can replace the pod. But again, the situation becomes you're starting completely fresh from scratch. The site changes are pretty quick, but at the same time, that's something you have to consider as well. I will say another perk though, is because they're small, travel with them is super easy because they don't take up a whole lot of space. It's amazing. So I think there's a lot of perks with the pod. I think for kids, it's amazing, especially because the algorithm is more conservative. So ideally you're preventing a lot more of the super highs and preventing a lot of the lows, which is a huge concern of the lows, with the parents. And I think for some adults, it's amazing. I just think personally, the algorithm's not quite aggressive enough unless you really hone in on it early on. And then ideally things get a little better, or, you run the loop and it's a separate conversation. But Omnipod, that stuff's there. And of course, as you have questions on these things, message me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, @manofzeel, MANOFTZEEL. And I'm happy to chat some more. Second one would be the Tandem. And so I would say overall for our practice, Tandem and Omnipod and Medtronic are still the 3 tops. Tandem, definitely. I don't want to say I was one of the first people, but like way back over 10 years ago, I did get on a Tandem pump. I had left the Medtronic club after over a decade, and Tandem, I love it, right? I'm actually wearing it right now, which is awesome. Yay, Tandem, hooray. But Tandem, obviously, touchscreen's amazing. All that's fun. The algorithm Control IQ, I will say, out of the commercially available algorithms, it's right up there with that and the Medtronic are neck and neck. Like they're both very good. I think Tandem has more personalization factors, especially with Control IQ Plus, allowing you to extend your doses out longer. That's been game changing with respect to temp basals. I think that's amazing. I've seen people do incredible. Like I've seen people averaging 110, 115 on a Tandem pump with the algorithm using it. And it's awesome. I will say though, with the algorithm, it does have the 5-hour active insulin time, which is a lot longer than most people historically do. Most people do between 3 and 4 hours. So because of that, a lot of times the settings have to be adjusted over the first month or so with your care team, which, it's a process. But if you're willing to go through the process, it can pay off massive dividends at the end of the day. However, because the algorithm is so specific, because of that, if you went into manual mode, you will likely have an entire new slate of settings. That can be frustrating because again, that, you have one set for when you're in manual mode. You have one set, if you go to manual, one set for when you're in Control IQ. That can get obnoxious. And if you're flipping back and forth, that can be a lot to remember. And so that's something that I think really has to be considered. And before they had the extended bolus time longer, and before they had the temp rate stuff, I did not love Control IQ. I ran it for 5 days when it first came out, did not love it, the 5-hour thing drove me nuts. And I was like, the heck with them, I'm going to do manual mode. And it's fine, right? The actual pump itself, I think is amazing. I think the user interface is amazing. And again, one of the perks and also downfalls, right? One of the perks is you can disconnect it. So you can go in the hot tub, you can go in the sauna. But on the flip side, you have to disconnect it if you're going into water. So if you're going to go swim, you have to take it off and be able to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because my pump's disconnected to ensure that I don't run out of basal. And again, because it's a pump, you can change the sites. If the site doesn't necessarily work, not a perk relative to the pod is you could change just the infusion set. So you're not losing all of the insulin in the pump. You change the infusion set. Oh, I have a better infusion set now. Awesome. I'm good. And that's it. So you have to weigh that into the picture as well, because of course, right, with a pod, there goes the whole pod. Hopefully it worked, hopefully not. And then you're losing that insulin. Even if you're drawing out 75%, you're still losing something. In this case, with the Tandem, you don't have to be losing that. But again, I've had my share of Tandem fun as well. I've talked about on the show before. So you have to consider that part of it as well. But that's pretty standard for most tube pumps, right? You're going to have some pluses. You're going to have some minuses. Medtronic, I think Medtronic, now that they're having the integration with Abbott, so they're having the Freestyle Libre, basically technology being integrated into their sensor, I think that's going to become a much bigger player in the game. I was on Medtronic way back. Like I was in elementary school when I got a Medtronic pump. And then I used it all the way up through undergrad. And it was great. I absolutely really liked it for a long time. And then I want to try something different. But with Medtronic, their algorithm's fantastic. As far as I know, there are no extended bullets, there are no temp basals. So that's a step down from Tandem, but there's still the personalization factors where you can plug stuff in terms of, the basals and everything else. So to me, it's kind of from an algorithm standpoint, I would put Tandem as 1, Medtronic as 2, and a very close 2, and then Omnipod as 3 in terms of commercially available algorithms. But also for Medtronic, they do have the option where you have a longer wear insulin infusion set. So you could say, hey, I'm going to keep this for 7 days instead of changing my site every 3 days. I've heard mixed things on it. Some people can only get through day 4, day 5. Some people can get all the way to 7, but the absorption starts to not be as good. So that's something to consider as well. But once they have their new sensor, which their sensor historically had been kind of meh, once they have this new sensor, it's going to be a different ballgame. I really think so, because freestyle is fantastic from everything I've heard from all the patients that we've had with type 2, and then the patients with type 1 who end up on a freestyle. People love it. So I will be very intrigued to see how that goes. I do think it's a very viable option. And quite honestly, there's no right or wrong answer with any of these pump systems I'm mentioning here. Yes, I ranked the algorithm, but there's no right or wrong answer. You can get any of them that you want, and any of them will be amazing because it comes down to the user. But for Medtronic, I would say the biggest things are going to be, how does the integration go with Abbott? And then number 2 would just be, again, like you have the same stuff as Tandem where you have to disconnect it, but you can also disconnect it, which is nice. Or the site's not great, but then you can change just the site, not the insulin. So there's a lot of pluses when it comes down to it as well. Then in terms of other players in the game, there is the iLet. I think the iLet is incredible. I think the iLet also has its limitations. So if you're not familiar with the iLet's a system where basically you just tell it normal carbs, less carbs, more carbs, and it will dose. It learns you, again, similar to the other algorithms, it effectively learns you over time. The difference is it does a lot of stuff for you. And so with that, I have experience because I was in one of the trials before the iLet became the iLet. It was about 10 years ago. That's wild that it was about 10 years ago. But I had the bihormonal system. So I had insulin and glucagon, and it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I can do a whole episode on that if I haven't already. I don't think I have, but it was incredible. This one's just the insulin part. And what's nice about it, again, is you don't technically need to have a ton of carb counting. You can kind of get an idea, hey, this is more carbs, and it will dose and figure it out. The caveat is because there's just a little bit of blurriness in terms and vague data. Yes, it will learn you, but at the same time, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, A1C wise, it's going to be difficult for you to break into the low 6s. Like you may be like, hey, my ceiling is a 6.5. And if you're okay with that, by all means, do what you do. It can be amazing for people that are newer diagnosed because, hey, I'm having my normal amount of carbs. Boom, pump knows what to do and I'm good. On the flip side, however, you are then completely beholden to an algorithm that you cannot do much about because it is just dosing you based on you put in your weight. And that's effectively, from what I'm aware of, that's pretty much it. So there's not a whole lot of personalization. So it's kind of just, for lack of a better term, Jesus take the wheel and have at it, which some people really like. Some people don't want to have to think. It does it for them. They get a decent control. They're happy. But on the flip side, I see a universe where if something happens and there's a tech problem, you are completely helpless. You have no idea what to do unless you have a very strong backup plan from a very strong care team. So it could be, the pump site fell out. Well, what do? I don't know what to do. Help. That can be a really serious problem, especially if you're in a situation where you can't put the pump back on, or pump malfunctions or something. That could be a huge problem. And of course, with any pump, you should have a backup plan. You should know how to transition to injections. That should be a thing that your care team goes over. And if they haven't, you need to press them on it. But this is one that worries me because especially imagine someone newly diagnosed, don't know anything different except for a few weeks of MDI. I'm on this amazing system. It does everything for me. Cool. But I don't know what to do to troubleshoot. That could be a very big problem. And I don't like that. I also remember back when I did this trial, I was actually I started out doing a PhD before I transitioned to become a dietitian. And I remember doing that and thinking about it. I'm like, this is great, except people are going to be like, I've had diabetes for years. I'm going to go nuts and I'm going to just eat everything and anything in sight because it's going to fix it for me, which there's some validity to that, right? Part of the story that I can tell in a future time is when I was in that trial, I wanted to test the limits of the thing. And I went out and I ate 10,000 calories in a single sitting. And I'm not exaggerating. I actually did the math and added it up. It was nuts. I woke up with a great blood sugar. I was around 100. However, that's someone that was deeply in tune with nutrition, someone that knew what they were doing. Imagine someone that doesn't, and they're just like, I can go eat pizza and ice cream and all these things. It's not going to go very well. So I would say it can be a really good system, but I personally think you should try to learn the backdrop of it a little more, of diabetes more. Have your, other experience on a pump, then consider, okay, hey, I know what to do. I have backup ideas. I know what to do for insulin pens, etc. Now let me consider trying this if you're okay with that being your ceiling of, 6.5 or so. Then there's the twist. And the twist is brand spanking new. I think I know 2 people overall who are even on it, and both are providers. So it should be getting more commercially available over time. So from what I know about the twist, the people I know love it. They absolutely love it. Something I like about it is it actually runs, remember I referred to that Omnipod Dash where you can run the loop. It runs a version of that loop. And I think that is the best algorithm that could possibly exist that is out there that I know of as of now. There's other ones that may be a little more specific and a little more detailed, but are more tech. You need to be more tech savvy. This one I think would be the easiest use case of, hey, I know I can use this. This is going to work. It's good. That algorithm's great. The 2 people I know who are on it, amazing. The caveat's going to be, when is it going to be just all over the place commercially available? So when that happens, I think it'll be a lot more interesting. It's something I would kind of keep your eyes and ears out for, but I wouldn't rush to go do it right away. My opinion, again, everyone's different. There's the early adopters, the people that, adopt things later. I'm kind of one of those people where I'd like to be on the front end of the curve, but I don't want to be the first person, just in case there are some technical issues. And obviously that can be a thing as well to consider. But with this, I think that the twist has a lot of potential, but also, again, it's also going to be integrated with the Eversense CGM, which is the implantable one that just gets implanted once a year. They take it out, they put one new one in, and you're good for a year instead of having to change your Dexcom and having to deal with calibrations and all that other stuff. It's in, it's good. And so I've known a few people that have been on the Eversense. They absolutely love it. That being with Twist, I think makes it a really attractive option for people that don't want to have to keep changing out their CGM, and the Eversense accuracy is second to none. So the good news is with all of these systems, right, there's pros and cons to all of them, and they're all great potential options. But on the flip side, you have to figure out what is going to work best for you, for your needs, what your situation is. And don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to ask your team about it. Don't hesitate. If you're working with us, we're happy to talk about the different options with you. We're not going to sway you one way or another. Say this one's most superior. As you saw here, I laid them all out. I didn't say this one's better than that. I said, this is my opinion on which algorithm's the best. But in terms of systems themselves, I've run a pod for well over a year. I've run Tandem. I've had a Tandem pump for, it'll be almost as long as Medtronic at this point. Like I ran Medtronic for over a decade. Like I like to think I've seen a lot of the good from all of these things. And we've worked with so many people from all different walks of life on different devices that it really just comes down to whatever's best for you. And ultimately, it's not going to be the pump that changes everything. It's going to be the user of the pump, making sure that they utilize the system they have to the best of their ability to have great control. That's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. So I hope this gave you some food for thought. I hope this was something that was helpful. If you're considering a pump, if you're considering changing your pump, what is out there now, kind of a state of the pumps announcement. And from there, let me know question-wise. If you need anything, holler at Man of Zeal on social media. And if you're someone who's saying, hey, I want to dive into this more. I want some better clarity on my blood sugars. I just really want to have the best control of my life. And I want to start that process prior to the end of this year. We are here to help. My whole team are dietitians, we're educators. We have diabetes and extensive experience in the field. We get it on a personal and professional level, and we're here to help support you. So with that, check the links in the show notes. Holler at me if you need anything. God bless, and I will catch you in the next episode.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.